we have a chance to really say something different that no one's ever said before.
You're in for an evening of great conversation. So it is my great pleasure to introduce Rick Najera.
This is a program started by people of color reaching across the board, talking to people, and starting Latino thought makers. Because what this is our community meeting.
Mainstream media thinks that we're all one person, and we're not. We're very diverse, and we come in all shapes and colors and all ideas, and we each have a brain of our own.
Latino thought makers are important because it's a live setting, and you can see the process that they went through to arrive at the creation of their art, and now they're imparting that to you. And it's an empowering thing.
This is our Latino living room, basically. And in this living room, we're all friends and family, and we're gonna have a discussion tonight. And I wanna show Latinos that we are always the solution, you're never the problem.
Unless we experience each other's journey, we will never know how to truly love and respect each other.
And a lot of times you see us in the media, we're portrayed in one way, but I know how we are. And we should recognize what Latinos have done for this community and for all America.
Latino thought makers, get inspired.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us, folks. This is Carlos Phoenix, and I am here representing the Georgia Latino Film Festival and the Lounge Network. And I am with today a special guest coming straight from California, from LA. His name is Rick Najera. And Rick, I'm just going to put you on camera and say hello to everybody.
I know where this is.
Carlos, how are you? Hello, everybody in America and the world, and all places in galaxies not even discovered. This is going out to all the people. I'm trying to speak as serious as possible with this feeling of a speech, if almost presidential, if you will.
Well, thank you. So Rick is a comedian, a writer. I would almost call him a poet, playwright, producer, director. He's a AMA award winner. I can go on and on and on. Is there anything I missed?
No, that's a really good intro. I feel humbled by it. Of course, I worked really hard, and I'm happy to have it. Thank you. It's nice, Carlos. It was really sweet of you.
Thank you. Well, you did all the work, so I'm just pointing out.
I did all the work, Carlos, and I want you to remember that. It's like you coming up in this business, just nipping at my heels.
Well, I also mentioned comedian, I think. So that's the gist of what's coming out right now.
I do comedy for my wife all the time, and she doesn't laugh. It's sad. So she
I have the same problem here at home.
Oh, you have the same problem?
I don't get any laughter except when I'm in a store or...
I'm the same way. One of my kids, I'll tell them jokes, and I'll tell them a bedtime story, and I'll be really sweet, and I'll talk to them, and they'll get upset, and I'll go, hey, people pay a lot of money for that same story, and I storm out of the room. I don't know if that's bad parenting. I'm not sure about that, but you should hear my bedtime stories. They're pretty bad.
Well, okay, so let's start with that. So let's start with your youth, since you brought it up. Tell me about you. What was it like growing up?
Growing up a small Mexican child among a lot of large Mexicans around me. Of course, you're fighting for the food all the time. You're waking up in the morning. The banditos are invading your village. It's always tough. No, it was. I grew up in La Mesa, which was actually what they do is I grew up in La Mesa next to El Cajon, which means the box, near Chula Vista, which means the pretty view, and which the Spanish missionaries really didn't name anything really well, just really simple things like El Cajon, the box, La Mesa, the table. So I grew up there 15 miles from the border, and so I was close to the border, so I grew up in the whole world, and I grew up on a border. So I think it helped make who I am. I realized that bridges are more important than walls.
Awesome. Now, in your youth that you've described, were you with both parents, or how did that work?
I was very lucky to have both parents in the home.
You know the story now. So mother stays home, takes care of the family. The father crosses the border, works for his family, and you haven't seen your father in 10 years.
I saw La Misma Luna. It was touching, and I saw a lot of those films. But my mother and father were great parents and really cool. Very, very Mexican. My father was extremely Mexican, very Mexicano. But my mother was from Boone, Iowa. So she was Mexican too. I want to tell people that, because people are like, Boone, Iowa, did that make you half Mexican? I go, no, I'm full Mexican. Not that that's that difficult a thing to be. But my mother was from Boone, Iowa, because basically my family, her side of the family, went up in the train. And they said they were treated very rudely in Texas. They fell asleep in the train. They woke up in Boone, Iowa, and they said, screw it, let's just stay here. That's all there is to it. And they're in Boone, Iowa. So I grew up on flour tortillas. I grew up in ham, string beans, ambrosia salad, all the Midwestern food just wrapped in a flour tortilla. That's the best way to describe it. That was my childhood. And I grew up in both worlds. My family started a barrio called Logan Heights. And then my mother quickly moved me into La Mesa, which was really nice and upper middle class. And we were still poor. We were like 5 kids in one bedroom, my parents in the other bedroom. And down the street lived a kid on a chicken ranch, and up the street lives another Mexican family. So we were rare. There's about 3 of us of families. But that kid who lived down the street is Juan Vargas. He's a congressman now. And the other is Elena Ochoa, the first Mexican-American astronaut. So I had some good people to grow up with.
Now that's impressive. I have a similar story, but I'm not going to get into that now. A lot of my friends, we went to an art high school together, and some of them are Disney directors. Some of them are way more famous than I could ever be. So I can.
But you're happy. A lot of those guys. A lot of people think success makes you happy. It doesn't. So if you're feeling that you may not be as successful, but you're happy, then you've won. That's what I always tell people, because people are like, no one in Hollywood thinks they're successful. Everyone in Hollywood thinks they're not successful. And people are away from Hollywood think, man, I wish I was in Hollywood. But the truth is, no one in Hollywood is from Hollywood. We're all from Atlanta and everywhere else. I'm from San Diego. So I try to put it in perspective.
Now, you have worked on the Diversity Showcase.
Yes.
And I'm showing a clip here of one of the comedy skits that you've done.
That's from a Showtime special I did called Legally Brown. Legally Brown. It was on Showtime. It had Tony Plana, myself, Cristel Alonso, a lot of different people. But my character, Buford Gomez, actually did on Broadway, was a character that was a right-wing Border Patrol agent, which I grew up on the border, so I ran into a lot of right-wing Border Patrol agents. They all had Texas accents. But like, hi, my name's Buford Gomez. And they talk like that. And I'd look at them and think, wow, they look more Mexican than I do. Why am I being pulled over? They walk up with that whole, let's see the Carte de Verde. And I'd look at them and just be like, he looked like Moctezuma, like that kind of Mexican brown. I mean, that dark Yucatan brown. And I was not quite that, because I'm güero, as you know,
right? Which
means tall, good-looking, light-skinned Latino man. That's what güero means. It's not me. It's my people.
Right, no, I get that. Now, that's probably where you got your title for your book, Almost White, because you're very light-skinned, kind of like I am, a light-skinned Latino, where people look at me and they don't have no clue that I'm Latino.
Yeah, but we're called undercover Latinos. And undercover meaning that every culture has groups within their cultures that are lighter skinned, so they can be outside the camp to bust the other ones out. And I'm that guy.
Yeah, and I get to sneak around, and if people are talking in Spanish, I can kind of spy and listen in and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're the double O Cholo, or double Julio of the spy world of Latinos.
James,
this is raw. You said I talked to you totally raw, just be myself. So this is not scripted.
subscribers.
Oh yeah. And here's what I want people to go to our Latino Thoughtmaker channel and subscribe to Latino Thoughtmakers. I'm asking you to do that right now. I am begging my people to subscribe because I need to learn about social media.
All right, so let me elaborate on that. So we're going to get into this conversation about something he's got called Latino Thoughtmakers. And we'll get into what it's about and stuff like that. But he's had his YouTube channel for some time. And what we want to do is allow you guys to follow the important information that he has with the Latino Thoughtmakers and allow, and basically, if you can go to the page, if you look at the description, I actually have the YouTube page listed there. And I just need you to click on that and hit subscribe. That would help us so much in terms of some of his mission, such as having more viewers.
Yes, that would really help me a lot. But more importantly, I think people need to know Latino Thoughtmakers is an important kind of show. This is my daughters. These are my daughters.
Hi.
Hey, hello. How are you?
You guys want to talk Spanish just to prove you're Mexican?
Hola.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo están?
Bien. Okay, that was sending them to a multi-language cultural school since they were born.
Now,
Multicultural learning center. They're indoctrinated. I was like, they learned the Spanish through waterboarding. It's like agua. They learned all that.
well, so what's your attitude on that? So I have a child. She was born, both my wife and I are Latinos, but we only spoke English in the household. And now it is. I know.
No, I think people got to get over that. First of all, I was on Despierta America one time, and people were like, "We're surprised how horrible your Spanish was, Rick." So I was like, "Look, number one, 10% of Mexico doesn't speak Spanish. They speak indigenous languages. So not even all of Mexico speaks Spanish. And if you go to Spain, people speak Catalan. They speak all sorts of different dialects. So most people are fairly, multilingual and, not pure whatever Spanish is. And it really, the culture isn't purely about the language. It's never has been because we're a very diverse culture. I've got families from Chihuahua, Mexico. So Chihuahua, my grandmother was Tarahumara or Apache, and so she was dark. My grandfather was very güero and light and blue-eyed. He had blue-eyed. And so if you go to Chihuahua, there's Germans, there's French, there's all sorts of people. So there's a mixture, and we've always been a mixture of people. So my kids are even Mexicans, so they're a mixture. So no, I always tell Latinos, the least thing is always love everything about yourself. Don't figure how much more Latino could I be, or what could I know, or whatever. Just be who you are and celebrate your uniqueness, because I can tell people my bad speaking Spanish is actually true of the Chicano experience in America. And so you not speaking Spanish as your own is true of your experience.
I do. They don't.
Yeah.
But we spoke English in the household. We watched TV, which was English and stuff like that. Now, all right, so you're young.
But you don't forget your culture and who you are.
Correct.
There's a difference. And so we all are reflections of that culture, which is a very multicultural and diverse culture as well. The last full-blooded Chicano type was Moctezuma. He wore feathers and slippers, and they stoned him in Mexico City. So I'm okay.
It's documented.
It's documented. So you just love all of you because we're a very mixed culture. So I love my diversity. That's why I work in diversity.
So that's one of my questions.
Yes.
You got into entertainment how? How did that start?
I was a kid. I was my father took me to a movie, and it was a Shakespearean type film with called Cromwell with Richard Harris, and I was like looking at this, like the red velour curtains opened up, and there was this British men speaking so eloquently, "There will be justice," and I looked and I said, wow. My father turned to me and he said, "If you could speak beautifully like that, I'd be so proud of you." So I was like, hey, well, in that case, make my dad proud. I'll do anything. So I started reading Shakespeare. And I had memorized Shakespeare. I went to the Old Globe Theater when I was something like 17. I was really young. There was a Globe Education tour. They're doing Romeo and Juliet. And so I just did soliloquy from Romeo. And they gave me a job. And I was working the Old Globe for over a year and did all the shows. And I think I did 3 shows that year. And and I worked at San Diego Rep, and I worked all the theaters until finally coming to Hollywood. So that's how I got started, making my dad proud, my parents proud, which is a very Latino thing. We always love to make our family proud.
And then were they supportive of that?
Oh, yeah.
That's
Very
cool.
much so. It's extremely. My dad was very proud of everything I did. I came from tough guys. My grandfather was a cockfighter, raised fighting cocks. He was, went to prison for it. My dad was tough too. He'd gone to Vietnam and World War II. So there I am wearing tights and with a sword in my hand. So I kind of slung the tights down a little lower to look cool, like a little street swag. But luckily I had very tough macho Latino guys that allowed me to be who I was, which was theater. I fell in love with theater at a young age, and luckily everyone encouraged it. There was no sense of, even me singing musicals and doing stuff like that. And I was in the San Diego Civic Youth Ballet. So my dad was like, "That's my boy. I love that kid. He's a good kid." So they were happy I embraced the art. So I never felt them ever going no. Although they did say one thing: you got to make money. My dad was like, was never, he's going to pay for college or any of that stuff. They just said, look, you like art, then make them pay you for it. So my first job, I actually asked for money and I got it. So I've been paid ever since. And
so was there ever a time of just struggle?
Always a time of struggle. It never stops. There's you're in Hollywood, and the only thing's different. You go against more famous people and richer people every time. Like I lose jobs to Seth MacFarlane. That's the difference. It is kind of a little bit like a jungle analogy that Hollywood. No lion retires in the Serengeti. No gazelle says, I'm done. I made enough. Got enough hay. I'm going to relax. So you're always constantly topping yourself or doing something different and something unique. And there is a real hustle to it. And, I'm being totally honest because I'm at home and I can be raw. But you got to make a living. It's a miracle I've made a living for so long and done really well.
All right. So
I'm very, very blessed.
As a Latino,
yes.
Of course, that's kind of almost working against the grain in the entertainment industry. How do you feel you were able to kind of outmaneuver that? Because you're pretty well known and high ranked in terms of the way people may look at Hollywood. As a writer, you've written for Mad TV, you've written for In Living Color, you've written for a lot of well known shows.
East Los High. I just did 2 seasons of East Los High, which was great for Hulu, and I've currently been at CBS for 13 years, and I had a show on Broadway, and I think there's only one of 3 Latinos ever wrote and started a play on Broadway. I'm one of them. Lin-Manuel Miranda, John Leguizamo, and me. It's not a big group, but
now he's doing a 3rd one, isn't he?
Which one, Lynn? I'm sure
John.
he is. Oh, John. Yeah, I'm sure he will. I have to do one too. I got to do another one.
You got to top
working on that now. I cannot. It's just the competition level. Jeez. I think I've done really well. Now he's doing 3rd, and now I got to catch up to him. I got to get my 2nd one on Broadway. So the competition is difficult. It's really hard. It's like every time they do something bigger, I'm like, oh man, I did only 137 performances of Broadway. He did, 400. It's all that kind of competition. And but if you're an artist, you really kind of create your own competition in your head. Your real competition is yourself.
So this is the Latino Thought Makers. Tell us a little bit about the Thought Makers.
Well, Latino Thought Makers started about 3 years ago, and it really started because I just started hearing a lot of bad, negative things about Latinos. I've heard it for a long time, actually. Since about 1800s, I've been hearing it. And so what I wanted to do with Latino Thought Makers was to show a positive view of Latinos and really show Latinos as the solution, not the problem. Because all I kept hearing, these undocumented people are such a strain on our society. I'm like, wait, we're like the 6th largest economy in the world, or 6th to 8th, and we have 2 million undocumented people in our state, and we're that rich. Obviously, they're not hurting us; they're actually helping us. 50% of all their agriculture is made by people that are undocumented, and that feeds most of America. So, we're doing all this work, and I wanted to be recognized. That's what Latino thought makers is about. And that's why I go out and speak a lot and do shows. And I've spoken at Harvard, Stanford. I've been on NPR, a lot of different things. But just a very simple thing of Latinos are the solution. We're the young demographic. We're the people that are going to fix the world. And if you how well we're educated versus incarcerated will decide all our futures. I can see my book up there.
Yeah. So, all right. So now you have this, your book, Almost White.
Yes.
And you had discussed, for example, having a seizure and you fell and you split your head open and, of course, nearly losing your life. And now it's years later, because this happened some time ago now. You've had a second chance at life. Now, what noticeable changes do you feel you've contributed in your mission since then?
Man, that's a tough question. You really got me. You're breaking me down in this interview. You just always at my heels. I can see competition there. What is changed? I'm glad you asked me that because no one really ever asked me that. It's really true. I call it the Lazarus effect. This is the Lazarus effect. Jesus raises Lazarus from the tomb. You're alive. Lazarus gets home and someone goes, "Oh, you got to get your taxes done." And so Lazarus is like, "Okay, I got to get my taxes done." Here I go. Oh, wait, and it's the same thing. I was at death's door 3 times actually. I was the first time when it wasn't a seizure. It was actually I had a problem that they didn't understand in my brain. It was called encephalocele. It's a leakage in the brain, and it wasn't diagnosed. So one night, since I had this leakage in my brain, I actually developed a fever. They don't know what kind of fever it was, but when you have nothing protecting your brain, you can get really sick. And so I got 110, 13-degree fever, and I actually had a seizure then. That was a seizure. I fell down, I hit my head. In my home, I was alone. I had a maid who called my wife and said, "Mr. Rick is very sick." And I hate saying maid because she's really just a friend. And she called my wife, and my wife's like, knock on his door. And she's like, and I kept saying, go away. I'm all right. I'm just sick. And as I was getting more and more sick till finally I had a seizure, and they found me in my bed in a pool of blood. And it looked like it had been a hate crime or something. People didn't know what happened to me. A lot of people were wondering. I was kind of thinking, wow, if it was a hate crime, this is going to be great publicity. Boy, if I make it, I'll be like, hey, let's increase the peace. Come on, and all that kind of stuff. But it was overworking with this problem. So I was in a coma for 3 weeks, on and off. And then a week later, when I came out of it, I found they take a tube down my throat and they took it out and I could speak. And the first joke I said was, the nurse was there and she walks up to me, surprised I could speak. And I go, "Do you know how to get a man out of a coma?" And I bring her down. She comes down to goes, "Do you know how to get a man out of a coma? Give him Viagra, that'll get him up." And then I went immediately under. So it was, at that level, my joking was not where I am now. It was basically that kind of humor. But they remembered. They're like, "Oh, Rick just came back. What happened?" And then I started coming back. But every time I came back, I started reciting Shakespeare. I knew Shakespeare so deeply in my soul. And then people would come to visit me and they would tell me I'd said these really profound, cool conversations when I started coming out. But it took a long time. And in fact, a week later, after coming out of the coma, I spoke at the World Bank, which is a YouTube channel. You can see me speaking at the World Bank. And I don't remember it because I'd only been out for a week. So it was pretty traumatic and I had to keep working.
Wow.
Because in Hollywood, no one likes to know that you're sick because the rumors were, everything. What happened to Rick? Oh my God, what happened? And no one ever looks at the lion and says, that wounded lion is such a noble beast. That's when the jackals come in and kill you. So I had to really recover fast and kept it very secret in Hollywood. My wife's a publicist, so she put like a no visit clause and all sorts of stuff. So people didn't know. Eventually, I decided to talk about it in my book because my publisher came and they said, where have you been? Where have you been? No one knows where you're at. We're all terribly worried about you. And I'm, newly out of a coma going, I was in a coma, but I'm okay. What am I doing? She goes, you're speaking at the World Bank. And I go, okay, how much am I making? They told me, and I was like, I need medical bills. I'll be here. So it looked like one of those 80s, action movie stars when they start taking out their own, pulling out all the stuff off of them, pulling everything out of them and getting up to go with that one last fight. So that was the World Bank for me. So, and I had to make a conscious choice to walk and live. It was really strange being in a coma. People go, what do you remember? I mean, I do remember out of my body a lot. And, but most I remember having is to say, get up. You got to get up. You got to get up for your family.
So back to the question.
Okay. What have I learned?
I mean, that's the story, and it's very dramatic. It's very, it's in the book. So if anybody wants to pick up the book, but
yeah, I was just reading it out loud. That was
that was the word for word verbatim.
No,
so I know you've been on that mission of helping the Latin market. I wanted to talk a little bit about the diversity stuff that you were doing with CBS, but then this happens, and at what point did you say, well, I got to get back on mission? And if so, then where did what kind of things have happened since then?
Well, you're as an artist, you grow in what your mission is. I mean, basically, I first started acting to meet girls. That was about it, and then later on, it becomes more, you grow up, and then I turned into what the mission was really what every artist's mission is to look at the world and show people things they haven't seen. Show them not to see the world as it is, but as it should be. As a quote, I remember reading that one time. But I remember, it's not to see the world as it is, but as it should be. It's not to see the world as how Latinos should be, as how they should be treated, how it should be better. So for me, a lot of it was a reinforcement of the mission. And the book really came from the fact that I nearly died. And I thought, I want to leave something for my children. I want them to really know me, if I'm not gone. At that time, my kids were like 8, 10, 11, and they would have missed out on me. So I really wanted something to leave them. I had a great father, and I loved him very much. And I have a great mother and a great family. So I wanted them to have that. So I really had a drive to write the book. And the mission has changed in this way that I realized there's an expiration date on me. And there's an expiration date on all of us. And to look at the world and to see who we are and to live in the now. Live in the now of just truly being gracious and grateful to your world, and to be more loving and kinder than the next guy next to you, to really be the solution, not the problem. So if anything, it made me a lot more loving and caring. It really did. I mean, it made me look at people I was in the hospital seeing people dying, and I would see stories, and I would really just look at the humanity and realize how lucky I had been. Because, there was a woman, a very great actress, Lupe Ontiveros, and she died. And I remember she called me, and I was in the hospital, and I saved the recording. It says, Rick, I've heard about your accident, and it's unfortunate, but I know I'm praying for you. We'll get through this together. Oh. And she said that. And then like a month later, she had cancer, and she knew it. Oh. So she was saying, for both of us, you're going to make it, and I'm going to make it. And they had that hope, but she was thinking about me. And knowing that she had cancer at the time, thinking about me and calling me up really was just a remarkably beautiful thing to happen. And I'll always remember that. And I remember visiting her at the hospital before she died. I think I was one of the last people to see her. And, you see someone that you care about, and and she's dying, and you racked with guilt because it's like, why didn't I die? So many people are good people didn't die, and yet I lived. So I have survivor guilt to this day, but part of the way to knock away survivor guilt is giving a little bit more to the world. So I do have that in my head. Yeah, you were given a second chance. What are you going to do with it? And sometimes I go, man, God brought me back for this. So I sometimes when I make mistakes, and I wonder, because it really is a gift, but it took me to be in a coma to wake up, to realize that life is a gift and truly love it, truly love your life.
Well, I thank you for that.
Yeah,
You worked on the Diversity Showcase for many, many years in CBS. And a lot of stars sprouted out of that. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Are you still working on the showcase?
Yes, I am. I'm still in the showcase. I was just on auditions all day, so my mind's a little burnt out because when you're auditioning, and I work with some really great people. There's some really good people that I work with that, because they're also part of the problem. We're in Hollywood. We're the solution and we're the problem at the same time. And I don't think people in Hollywood truly are out to get minorities. At least a lot of times they don't understand us. And I really look at it and I go, if you knew us, you would love us. As weird as that sounds to say, and what Latino Thought Maker is about is getting people to know us and know who we are, good, bad, and indifferent of who we are as a people, because we're very much human. And a lot of people don't see it that way. So diversity is important. People come out of the show. Kate McKenna, who's on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
Tiffany Haddish, who's in The Girl Trip. She's the lead of that. Great actress. Randall Park, who's the lead of Fresh Off the Boat. Justin Hires, who's in Hawaii Five-0, MacGyver, everything. About 65 series regulars. 4 have gone on to Saturday Night Live. 4 have gone on The Daily Show, and 4 have gone on the Mad TV, all directed by me. And it's a program that's very intense. Basically, it's me teaching acting and writing everything I know for almost 6 months.
Wow. Well,
so it's a very intense program.
Yeah, I know you've
people auditioned for it.
I've watched some of your.
23.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
2,500 people auditioned for it. I choose maybe 23. Me and the executive vice president of casting, Fern Orenstein, along with everyone else, because there's plenty of input. It's very collaborative.
I know part of your teaching philosophy has to do with comedy or laughter, and how that is like the peak of the emotions that an actor can go through.
No, you must have seen one of my videotapes. That's true. Yes. It's like being
I don't know you at all.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. You're doing research. I can see you are good. You are good. A lot of times what laughter is in comedy is it's the highest forms of emotion. Comedy is a very intelligent person's game. It is. And that's why when you see Latinos on television or film, a lot of times we're doing drama, and which I think is ridiculous because we're far more funny as a people than dramatic. Telenovelas just, we joke about them, but the truth is our comedy. The saddest times you'll see Latinos, they're going to be laughing. They're going to be joking. There's an earthquake that happened in Mexico City, and there was a rock star got killed, and one of the people were joking, was like, he died of a cement overdose. That was the joke. And there's that gallows humor comedy that Latinos, we're always laughing. We're always thinking something's funny or unique, or we love life. That's a big part of us. And laughter is part of that life. So it's not the drama that people remember of us, or really, it's the humor, because that's what we should talk about. How great we have is humor. So I just like a musical, and the emotion gets so strong, you have to laugh, and the emotion gets so strong in terms of the human experience that you have to laugh as well. So it's involuntary. It's an involuntary action.
Now, I want to thank everybody that's watching. We're not done yet, but I want to thank everybody that's watching. If you guys are watching and enjoying the content, please share, because that's how we get the word out. That's how people can interact and ask questions and stuff like that live. I am keeping an eye on the comments. I'm sure everybody's enjoying our stories that we're sharing today. So Rick, a number of years ago, and yes, I've been kind of reading up on you and stuff like that, you had mentioned that we need more Latin or more diverse writers. And the thing is, I'm sure years ago that was a big deal in terms of getting writers for television and stuff like that. But everything's kind of shifting, including this episode here. We're doing this live online and stuff like that. So where do you begin to make those changes, or where do you begin to try and inspire new writers to to talk about their diversity in a world of the digital age where everybody's just kind of caught up in their phones and staring at Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that. When back in the day, it used to be more like, well, here's a book, read it and get inspired. How do you think we can influence?
I mean, I think we have a lot of ability to connect to people on a worldwide because of the web. Remember 13 years ago, I remember I met my wife. I asked her on a date, and I'd never used an email before, so I wrote I was like, "Hey, you want to go on a date?" And I didn't even know how to use it, and all of a sudden, an email comes back. And I'm like, wow, it's a mail? I had to click on it, and all of a sudden it says, yeah, sure, let's go to Horton Plaza, someplace for a drink or a coffee. And that was my first internet experience. It was my wife asking around. And then now look at 13 years later, I'm actually writing a show that was on Hulu, seen by millions of people. I also worked for Ray Williams Johnson, who came through the CBS program. He has 12 million subscribers. He's one guy. So that's changing a lot of it. It's connecting to people in a way, but it's also finding the audience that knows what you're about. When I first started out, I started doing theater. I could afford theater. I couldn't compete against CBS or ABC and just do my own pilot on my network, but I could afford a show. And so my first show was Latins Anonymous. Was the name of it. It was like a 12-step program gone wrong. So I go, hi, my name's Rick, and I admit I'm a Latino. And I'd go on this whole monologue. But the show became a hit. And so I sold a pilot from it for Universal Studios. So I knew that with a $1,200 budget, I could make a living doing, when I would get an equity job, and then I would get a playwrite, I would get a percentage of the gross. So I could make a living. And so then I started figuring, I'll write and star in it. I'll do all that. Because basically, I came from working class people they don't mind you being an actor. You just got to get paid. I mean, they couldn't even fathom. Like you wouldn't be a guy going, I'm a carpenter. I love being a carpenter. And one day I'm going to get paid as a carpenter. You got paid. And so they were very much, and because of that, it put in a sense of me as a producer that I wanted to entertain people. My first two plays were actually dramas and did very well critically. People liked it, but people walked out of there depressed as hell, and I didn't get a lot of ticket sales. My next play was a comedy because I realized that's really what I should do.
Now, you've had some really inspiring conversations with some of the top or most recognized Latin actors and stuff, as I was showing this very well-known actor, Trello, and
Danny Trejo and Dolores Huerta and Edward James Olmos and virtually everyone,
And yeah, I just earlier showed Cheech, and it's amazing how, I mean, for me, and I don't even think about it in terms of Latino, they're embedded in my youth and my culture and my growing up in filmmaking.
And mine too. I mean,
and I don't think about it. I don't step back and say, those are my Latino folks. I just think of them as, those are really talented guys that I'm a big fan of. And then it wasn't until I started watching some of your reels that I'm like, that's right, they're Latino. And it's just wild because even as a Latino, I don't think about things of that nature, like, about the diversity. I'm not always sitting around, walking around thinking diversity. I'm more aware of it now than almost ever.
It in a lot of ways in America didn't want you to think about diversity. They didn't want you to think. I mean, even the right wingers now are going, identity politics. But we've always had identity politics. I mean, we went from a British colony to going, our new identity is American. So, and then we moved to the southern states, became, a part of America, and the northern states. And then there was a succession. They tried to win the Civil War. We've always had an identity, and it's part of who we are. The only people don't like identity is when all of a sudden they start to feel they're minorities, which a lot of the white guys have felt that way. So they're like, no identity politics. We're all just white and American, right? But that's too late.
And you think that's part of the flare-up that occurred in the past few days?
Yeah. I think a lot of it is. It's look at the guy who ran the car into the people, allegedly. I'll use network standards, who allegedly drove a car into a group of anti-demonstrators. Now, the thing is, what they said is that, and I'm very politically thinking. My cousin's married to Cesar Chavez's daughter. I'm on the board of Field. I come from a political background as well. And I look at these questions and I say, there are people that are saying, we want to take away your rights. We're going to take away your right to be a black person in America, or a Latino person in America, or an immigrant in Paris. We want to take away your rights. And there's people just saying, we want to have our rights. So when you look at guys like, KKK and the alt-rights and all these people, they're trying to drag all of us back to a time when we were not at our best. America was basically created in a lot of ways on racism. And we have to admit it. We have to sit there and go, the reason southern states were very wealthy because they had slaves. The reason the Southwest, we took it, the Southwest from Mexico. We did a lot of things. Now, I'm not saying that we're a perfect nation in any way, but I love this nation deeply, and my family's died for this country. I think what's great about us is we're progressive. We're trying to become better than who we were. That's what the hallmark of America is. We're trying to be better than we were. We want our children to have a better life than we did. We want all those things. Everyone does. We immigrate to this country for that very same reason. And then you have people that want to go back to an old time that when America, when they say is great. Now, if you look at that and you go, when was America great? When they were deporting 1 million Mexicans back to Mexico, and 60% of them were American citizens. That happened during the 40s. Was it great when Mexican-American women were sterilized in East LA clinics because they didn't know what they were reading, and they just had them sign a consent form because they believe in a pure race? That was really what was behind of stopping people of us breeding. There's horrible programs that were done and crimes against diverse people in this country. And it's not saying all white people are bad, but you have to admit when you've done something in the past to go overcome it, to go to a better future for all of us. And something is, I'm married to an Anglo woman. She's Irish and white, and she's beautiful. And no, don't tell the press, hold the presses. Whoa, Mr. Chicano guy.
We finished this interview. No.
I'm done with you. You sell out. Vendido. No, it's there's no such thing as a pure Mexican. We've always been a diverse culture, and we've always intermingled, and we're a romantic culture. We speak a romance language. We get Spanish. We're cool people, and we what life does. Life interbreeds and changes, and it's hard to be kept in a little box. It's like even the Cro-Magnon men and the Homo sapiens interbred. They were, you got to be, this is before alcohol was even invented.
I know, right?
So when you think about that, there's no beer goggles back then.
Yeah, they could have been mushrooms.
So there's some guys looking going, that Cro-Magnon woman, she's kind of thick. I like her. So
thick.
Thick. She's thick. She's got that hairy body. I like it. Man, you see her take down that buffalo with her hands. Gotta have that.
Jeez.
So, it's how DNA and genetics and how we do. We're life. That's what we want to do. We want to create more of it. People that are not progressive, who sit there and say, we're going to build a wall to stop the people. I say walls don't work. I grew up on a border with a wall, and it didn't work. And I don't care what
it hasn't worked yet.
Work. No.
I mean, they took down the German wall. I mean, come on.
No, the Great Wall of China was put up to stop the Mongol invaders. Well, guess what? There was a Mongol emperor on the throne of China within a generation. Mm-hmm. So the wall didn't work. So walls don't work. It's bridges work. It's interacting with people. So that way they're not the enemy, but they're part of us. There's absorption of cultures and cultures that are exchanging all the time. I look at Anglo cultures just on TV. White Hollywood America. I saw a commercial for Tajín, which is a Mexican spice. And so this Mexican spice called Tajín. Hey, Sally, have you heard about this new thing called Tajín? What is it? I don't know. Let's try it on watermelon. And I'm like, wait a minute. We've been doing that for a long time. What are you talking about? So, but then again, I'm having, tonight I'm going to have some pasta, with pesto. And, it's, I know, didn't have chilaquiles at menudo. I love those things, but people don't understand. We're all in cultural evolution. Every one of us in cultural evolution. When you look at the people back, what happened in Charlotte, the guy that allegedly ran through a car, through people who felt he had to stop it. Look at his life. I think he was maybe a security guard or something like that. He was 20 years old. He failed going into the Army. He came out. He'd been in the Army for 4 months and got washed out or whatever. This is what I was reading. And he's making $600 every 2 weeks. Not exactly a rich guy. And yet who's he looking to? He's a void in his life that he has to fill. He feels that the American dream is passing him up, and he's got to blame someone. And so who do you blame? You blame all the people that you're not even around, that you don't even know. You're thinking some Mexican guy's taking your job. I've never been at CBS and entertainment where I turn around, there's a guy with a bag of oranges hand going, I took your job over. It's mine. It's weird. They just gave me your job. That's not happening.
I don't know.
We need that.
I find it unusual when I go to a Chinese restaurant and there's Mexican cooks in the back.
They are taking a few Chinese jobs. That is true. But then again, I've gone to some Mexican restaurants. You might see a Chinese chef back there. Well, the best Chinese food actually is in Tijuana. People don't realize that. If you go to on the border, you grow up on the border, Mexicali, Tijuana, great Chinese food because they were the Chinese that couldn't get the green card to cross over. They stayed there, built themselves a great life, and have some of the best Chinese restaurants around. And then you go to Cuba. You ever see Chinese Cubanos? That exists. We're a very mixed culture, and that's our strength, not is our diversity. That's our power. That's why I think diversity is important, because when you keep someone from they're truly who they can be, we're stopping and we're hurting actual evolution. We're hurting the chance of someone that could have been the guy that invented the cure for cancer. That might have been black. We're hurting the chance of a Mexican American who might have wrote some incredible script and just because you're used to having a Latino on the set and because you don't know them. It's all those things. And like I say, if you know us, you'll love us. So that's my belief, honestly, is to become more of me. And I want everyone else to do the same thing. In
some conversations that I have for a lot of people, in their point of view, they see many Latinos in Hollywood.
Yes.
Now, of course, they also hear a lot about Latinos from the government. Now, what do you think people should know about Latinos that they don't know?
What they don't know is that the Latinos are the future of America. And they're not able to see that. We're the fastest growing demographic. We're all those things. So how well we all have in our future is how well Latinos are educated versus incarcerated will change everything. In California, there's a lot of new jails have been made. Around the country, we're the most jailed population in the world. They're building new jails, but how many universities are they building? How many colleges are they building? And then again, we always have money for a carrier or a B-1 bomber or something like that, but why don't we have money for people to go to school? Because education, I think Gorky, a Russian novelist, I think it was Gorky, wrote, when you close a prison door, when you close a prison door, you open a school door. Basically, I'm messing this up really horribly. That's how tired I am. When you close a prison door, you open a school door, and the thought is that prison, all that incarceration and holding back people and law and order and all that stuff. We're living in a Dickens kind of world now, where people look at stuff and go, like now it's an opiate crisis. It's an opiate crisis. Before it was a crack epidemic. And we had to incarcerate all those black people and stop them and super predators and all this stuff. We're talking, we got to get them, stop it. That whole idea. But now when it's white people, it's an opiate emergency. We need to, because really what the drug problem is a medical issue. It's not a criminal issue. It's a medical problem. But we don't choose to deal with it that way. So a lot of that is created by when people look at people that are minorities and see them as not them, the other, the foreigner, the immigrant, person like that. And so they give them those titles, and that makes it easy to incarcerate them. Okay, it came to me right now. It's from Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo wrote, "He who opens a school door closes a prison door. He who opens a school door closes a prison." You understand what that means? I just remember that. It came back to me. I just did not have that. I finally hit it. He who opens a school door closes a prison door. So think about that. It's about opportunity.
Yeah.
Education, education is one of the biggest things I'm about. That's why Latino Thought Makers, let me show you a t-shirt, because if you subscribe to my website, I'll... YouTube. Or YouTube.
So let me elaborate on that. So again, Anna had shared this link. Let me show this t-shirt. Latin Thought Makers, they have a YouTube page, and we want to add more subscribers. So what we're hoping for you guys to do is, in the description, there's a link to it. Anna had shared it earlier. We want to reach 100 subscribers so we can now change the name to YouTube/Latino Thought Makers. So please share this video. Please let people know. Share the link to the YouTube page as well, and let people know that that it's going to be great content. Now, explain to people, the Latin Thought Makers, what your mission on that show is.
Well, the mission is really simple. It's to put a spotlight on people and show, because right now we have a real problem in America. We have Trump actually wanting to talk about the immigrants are causing crime, which is not statistically true, and we all know that's not right. But he's actually going to start publicizing immigrants that cause crime. And they did that in Nazi Germany, actually, against Jews. So if they're going to publicize how bad we are, supposedly, I just want to publicize how good we are and how human we are and how unique we are and how we are the solution. So Latino Thought Makers is not only entertaining, because people see these great, conversations I have with people that are friends at this point, because a lot of us in Hollywood, especially Latinos, we're not with our families. Most of us don't come from Hollywood. And so our Hollywood family becomes really our family. I mean, I tell you, my wife, when we first came to Hollywood, she complained that she didn't have a lot of family here, and it was true. But now we'd hit us one night. We were out with Eddie Olmos. Edward James Olmos is my kid's godfather. And we're having a birthday dinner with him. And it was really we went to his house and we had watched videos. And they're looking after his dog right now because he's filming something. And I just got a view. So I'm just telling the truth. This is really good. So my wife realized that that's our family. He just happens to be famous, but that's really our family and our friends. So a lot of it is the community of feeling that in Hollywood. So I think Latino Thought Makers, I'm able to really show people who we are as a family. And that's the great thing about it, because all these guys I have stories with, like Luis Guzman. He did a movie I wrote called Nothing Like the Holidays. Edward James Olmos is my kid's godfather, but he's also a guy that did Latino logs. And so most of these people I've actually worked with. And so it's kind of been a good thing to work with people I know. So the conversations, people always, when they watch them, go, wow, it's just like I was hanging out at the dinner table with you guys and you were just talking. I remember one time I was with, Edward James Olmos one time, and we're talking. And he says, oh, yeah, Jim Morrison was stealing my dance moves. And I go, what? What are you talking about? He goes, Jim Morrison was watching his dance moves, right? He would come he'd go where Eddie was playing, right? And he would watch Eddie dance. And Eddie was a gre't dancer. And the way he tells it is that, yeah, it was incredible. So Jim Morrison is watching him dance and looking at his moves. And I'm thinking, you never told him about Jim Morrison. So every time I talk to the guy, there's always a new person I hear about. It's a new story. But he really has lived that life. We all have. We forget about it. It's like one day I hung out with Pitbull for a weekend in Miami. I got to hang out with Pitbull for a weekend. And great guy. I mean, really just an amazing human being. Just the nicest guy you'll meet. And so I tell someone, I was hanging out with Pitbull. My kids see his phone number in my book, my telephone book, and they're like, call up Pitbull. I'm like, it's probably not even his number anymore. But
yeah, what's up with that? They always change the numbers.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if he has. I haven't called the number. Maybe he still has it. Some people, I still have my number, and some people do. but it's the life you live here. It's a very normal life. It's not quite what people imagine. And this is our family and friends. So if I can show people kind of behind the scenes of who we are in a nice, respectful way. I mean, we all, I remember one night I went out with Cheech Marin and Geraldo Rivera, Cheech Marin. They're good friends. And so I'm with them in New York, and we're at a club, and I'm hearing them at a dinner. It was a dinner, and they brought a bottle of tequila, and we're doing tequila shots and talking. It's like one of the best conversations I've ever heard. So intelligent. It was like my dinner with Andre, but two Latino guys talking about life in such a cool, unique way. And Geraldo Rivera to me was a guy that opened a vault, for Al Capone's vault and found nothing. So
that's right.
I didn't exactly respect the guy, but after hearing him talk, I really started to like him. And I started thinking, that's what I want with Latino thought makers. That after you get to know people and they talk and they relax, you feel you know them. And when you know them, you like them. That's really mostly it. It's prejudice comes from the fact that you're ignorant of someone. And so if I can do my part to show people, Latinos, and what we do and who we are as a people, then I think I'm doing a good thing for everyone. And with me, since comedy has always been a part of my life, if I can make people laugh, I can make them think.
Well, you do. You do it on a consistent basis, and that's what I think I admire about you. And I met you a number of years ago. And
I remember. It was the Georgia Latino Film Festival. You came up to me, and you asked for my autograph, and I was like, in a second. And then you kept knocking on my, and I said, in a second. All right, you'll get my autograph in a second. And I pushed you, and it got crazy. It was weird. There's a lot of fighting.
Well, yeah, I mean, and then when you give me the head noogie, that's when I thought I realized you were kidding.
Yeah.
And we've been friends ever since.
Yeah. No, most people, we don't, it's surprising how people think we're going to be a certain way, but most people in the business that are working are really normal people. I know it sounds weird to say.
Absolutely.
It's what people don't realize. Like I got kids, I got a wife, I have the same problems everyone else does. And but on top of it, I have to work in a very, very stressful business.
Well, I've had the privilege of working in New York in the film industry for about 20 years. And on a very occasional occasion, the actor or actress is willing to chill and hang out with the crew, which, it's a rare thing because they usually kind of go in their direction. The crew's got to finish, taking down sets or whatever. And you get to feel that normalcy because, people who watch the screen, they have this perception. And then you also listen to all the gossip and it reinforces that perception. And when you finally get to know people in a more personal way, sitting at a bar or going out to dinner or whatever, and you get to hear the normal stories, it's just normal stories. And it's really awesome.
Well,
Good.
They're human stories. That's
Absolutely.
The thing is, like, I can name off some of the best conversations I've had that just happen to have been with people that are famous. But like, I remember talking to Eric Roberts in Cancun. We were doing a shoot together, and we just sat there. A chef came in that was cooking us a meal. I don't remember what they cooked. I remember how interesting Eric Roberts was, what he talked about, what was thinking in his mind. I mean, to me, I'm fascinated by humans. I just think, humans we're such fascinating creatures, that when I get a chance to interview someone, I get to ask questions because I'm very curious. Like I watch, my family always laughs at me because I love this Wicked Tuna show. Wicked Tuna, because I love to fish. No one would think I would love to fish, but I love it. And I love to cook. But people don't know those things. But if you really ask someone about who they are, people really want to explain themselves. They want to be understood. And a lot of times when you interview people, and I get a chance to interview people, they really desperately want to be understood because that's the connection we all need. So, did you hear that in the background?
No, what did she say?
Oh, nothing. Nothing. I was wondering if you were hearing the noise.
Is there a noise in the audio?
No.
Okay.
It's good.
No, I don't hear any noise.
Do people like the audio? Is it okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. I see Dolores worked in that's scene right there.
Uh-huh.
She was great to interview.
Yeah, and that's what I'm really enjoying about and I just spoke to Isai last week, thanks to you, as a matter of fact. Yes. And I'm trying to now. It's fascinating to hear their stories that you were able to pull out of them on stage. And it's fascinating to have a conversation with you. Because again, you read the book, you look up stories and articles and stuff like that, and there's a certain type of image, and same thing with Isai and stuff like that, and you then have just a normal conversation. It's fantastic. So I do appreciate you coming on the show and sharing a little bit of yourself. What's going on next with Latino Thought Makers?
Well, Latino Thought Makers is going to be at HACU, which is Hispanic Association of College and Universities, October 30th. Now it's going to have me and Cheech Marin, and I still need one female celebrity.
I can wear a wig.
You can wear a wig. Okay, I'll have you, but I might get calls from the women. So, I don't think you can tell a Latino story without telling the Latina story as well. So I'm really cautious about that because I have 2 daughters, and you can't tell a Latino story without women. So I got to have a woman on that panel. But that'll come on October 30th, and I'm starting a radio show on KPCC, KPFK, Pacifica Radio.
No. Our first freeze. Rick, I don't know if you can hear me, but you are frozen. He is frozen.
Pleasure to extend a warm welcome to you.
Don't miss the Georgia Latino Film Festival.
If you've never been to the Georgia Latino Film Festival, you don't know what you're missing.
With a perfect record, I came here to find you. And instead, you found me.
Are you gonna let us stay here?
Yes.
Oh, you are?
You're my father.
You are the guide. El coyote.
But you're scaring away my customers. I'm not leaving until you take me there.
I have mojados. Men, women, and children who are trying to escape this shit. Not run into it. My job is to get these people across. That's my only job.
They want your routes.
My routes.
Perhaps through your routes you take.
What I do know. Wow. About your maldito. There is a darkness around him.
Guys, can I bring something for my glasses?
This is something very strange.
Clean them, like Windex.
Do they always tell you those things?
She's alive.
Yeah.
Tell my mother
I
I
can't
love
see
her.
out there.
Tell my son, my wife.
Sometimes it's like they know me.
These people need to go, Miguel. You need to take them.
You show up in a car accident, all of a sudden you want to help mojados?
I'm here to help. And you need the help.
You came across a dead man yesterday. You're sitting next to a dead man today, and you'll be doing the same thing tomorrow. They call you maldito. The only luck you have is bad.
Why do all of you ask me to do that? You're the only person I've ever found alive. And why would I do that for you? Getting out of this country. I'm leaving. You think about this. The only one he ever lost was himself.
Oh, look who's here.
I'm back.
Oh, man.
All the
I am
drama
so
that
sorry for whatever.
I had my
happened.
tech support here. It was crazy. Crazy.
So,
yeah, that's the Boatman. You know who stars in that?
Oscar Torres.
Yes, I know Oscar. He's been asking me to see that movie, so now I just feel I saw it. So
We'll have to have a special presentation.
Yes, I did.
Oh man! So all right. So I before I even forget, I wanted to appreciate you for coming on board and talking to us. And before any internet hiccups again, is there anything else you want to promote? I know we want to promote the YouTube page. We were talking about California and the show you're doing there. Is there anything else that's going on in your wonderful life?
Well, what I'm doing nowadays is CBS Diversity Showcases. Right now we're auditioning people, so I'll see a lot of people. And then more Latino thought makers. We'll be in Cañada College. We're going to be back at Cal State LA. We're going to be at the Haku. More and more shows. And I also get asked to speak a lot, so I'm sure I'll be on the road speaking more. But go to the YouTube channel for Latino Thought Makers and subscribe to us because I need to get that up. But I've said that again. But on the whole, a lot of good stuff. The radio show coming out, it's good. I'm Mexican American. We're a hardworking people. So for me, I'm used to having more than one job.
I hear them in the background. It's kind of funny.
I hear the background. Yeah, that's my wife and her sister. They're doing a lot of work. So I'm hearing it.
Well,
yeah.
I want to allow you to get back to your life, your family. I want to say so much. Thank you so much. Again, thank you for the Georgia Latino Film Festival. Thank you, The Lounge Network, and thank you, Rick Najera.
I'll be coming out to the Georgia Latino Film Festival. It looks like.
What was that?
They're trying to get me out there, so I may be coming out to the Georgia Latino Film Festival.
Excellent. That would be awesome. I would love to see you there.
So,
and then we can probably do a little live thing, a little bit more personal.
We get more tech support. That's all we need. But thank you, everyone, and follow me at Rick Najera on Twitter and all that stuff, and check out my website. And just good night, everybody.
All right.
LatinoThoughtmakers.com.
And hopefully I'll be doing something with you on that. So that'll be awesome as well. So thank you, everybody who's watching. Thank you guys who have shared. And thank you all those who will watch the replay in the next couple of days. If it's great as Isai is, it'll be fantastic. And hopefully we'll double and triple that even as well. So, and don't forget, go to the YouTube page. Please subscribe. And that's it, everybody. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night. Now, I'm losing my voice now.
Thanks, Carlos.
All right. Bye. Have a great night. Take care, guys. Good evening.